So I've talked about the two features of a state already. I've talked about the population. I've talked about government as a feature of a state. The remaining important two features of a state I want to talk about is the territory. The territory is actually a jurisdiction, the area or the land space of a particular country. You know what I mean? But you perhaps don't see that question in your exam. What does territory means? You understand? So the question you see in your exam is what is the definite territory of Nigeria? You understand? Or what is the land space of Nigeria? So the land space of Nigeria is the 923,768 kilometer square. So don't forget that as far as your Jamb, Waec and Neco is concerned, the land space of Nigeria is 923,768 kilometer square. So beside that, the last feature I want you to understand is sovereignty. Sovereignty is the major feature, the major attribute or element of a state. We have other features, okay? But you see these four features that involve the population, the government, the definite territory, and sovereignty are the major element. But inside these four features, the highest of them all is sovereignty. Now, what sovereignty is all about? You know, sovereignty was actually popularized, is a topic we'll discuss later, actually. It was popularized by Jamb, a French philosopher, okay? And he popularized it by sovereignty in 1576, basically in the 16th century. Now, his ideology by sovereignty was that the sovereignty is actually a supreme power authority within a particular jurisdiction through which a state exists or rule without any form of external control. In a simple context, sovereignty is all about a supreme authority in a jurisdiction that is free from every external control. So if Tinubu is the head of Nigeria, Tinubu should be in charge of the administration of Nigeria. Tinubu should not be influenced by the president of Ghana or the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, or any other president from any other country. You understand? But the question I want to really ask ourselves for our jam sake as well is actually, is it that Nigeria actually per se, are we really having sovereignty in Nigeria? Are we really having sovereignty? The answer is no, really. We have sovereignty, but we don't have total sovereignty. There's a limitation to sovereignty, and the highest limitation in which you need to remember that for your exam is international laws. Okay, beside that, we already know the features of state. The other thing we need to know is to know the different types of state. One of the type of state is the city-state. Now, government started from polis. Polis is the inception of politics, and polis means city-state. Is a name for city-state in Greek. You understand what I mean? So, this polis per se, like I said, means city-state. It happened to be the inception of the contest of what state all about. You know, the person that discussed state per se long time ago is a guy called Niccolo Machiavelli. He was the first person to use the term state per se. Now, a city-state, using a perfect example, is actually a geographical area that is having a small land space with not too much population, practicing direct democracy, and every activities of governance there is being centralized. So that is what city-state is all about. But can we say Nigeria is a state? Yes, it's a state. But is it a city-state? No, it's not a city-state. So then, a state like Nigeria, what can we classify Nigeria to be? So we can say Nigeria is a nation state. A nation state have a very large geographical territory, and not just that, they practice indirect democracy, and their structure of government is federal structure. So that is for that. But for our exam sake, or for your exam per se, you also need to know that a state have heterogeneous languages. Nation state per se has heterogeneous languages. They speak more than one language. Okay, so I will be showing us some jam questions as regard this state and how they repeat these questions in your exam. I will tell you the truth, jam does not really set new questions like that. What they set is repeated questions. They will repeat questions they have set over time, and they will bring it for you. So if you can be able to review past questions, definitely you will be able to pass your exam. Okay, so in the same chapter 1, the other thing we need to know is what we call a nation. A nation is a group of people with a homogeneous language, a cohesive language, ethnicity, or culture, or common language. So a nation, they speak one language. What about a society? So when I discuss colonialism with us, I will give us a perfect example of a country that derived from the society. A society, as we can refer it to be a social organization. The necessary not having a particular language, just that the people just decide to come together or agree to become a country. They were socially inclined. In a simple context, they involve into what we call a social contract. Okay, so even social contract theory is one type of an ideology in the state. It was talked about by Thomas Hobbes and some other scholars as well. So we also discuss these things in detail. But Jamb said, please, society, a social organization, nation, people with one language, and state, different language, and one major feature is sovereignty. We can still refer it to be a political organization. So this is what you need to know for chapter 1. So the next thing I will be showing us in a post, okay, will be questions. Questions for this chapter 1. So I will want you to do the questions by yourself, provide an answer to it, and beside that, I will stay show the answers after you have tested yourself as well. So the next thing we'll be discussing will be chapter 2. So please, for the student that just coming to have access to this platform, I want you to follow these different topics step by step so that you can be able to comprehend well for your exam sake and obviously get a perfect score in your exam. So if you have access to this my platform, what I'll encourage you to do is you will subscribe, and share it to your colleagues and share it to your friends so that they can have access to learn from this platform and be able to have a great academic success. Thank you so much once again. I am Sashi Bob, a professional accountant and tutor of government. God bless.